Welcome to the Product Leaders Edge podcast. Welcome back to the Product Leaders Edge podcast. I'm your host, KJ Green. I am a product leader, entrepreneur, and a lover of all things technology. And thank you for joining me today for this solo episode. It's just me. It is just me. I hope you enjoyed the past two episodes with Kyle Sino and Travell Williams, learning about their product management journeys. But today we're going to talk about product market fit. And this episode is pre recorded, so I will provide an opening like what I'm doing right now. And we will go to a presentation that I did back in 2025 talking about product market fit to a audience of entrepreneurs. But before we start the pre-recording, I just wanted to ground us in what product market fit even is and why is it even important. So first, product market fit is one of the most talked about ideas in product development today, especially in this current AI native era. But it's one of the least clearly understood concepts. You'll hear startup founders, business owners, and everyone in between talking about growth, metrics, and traction. But before any of that, product market fit needs to begin with something much simpler understanding, which is understanding. Understanding your customer, understanding the market, understanding what to even build for, and whether this solution belongs in the world. This episode is part one of a two-part series where I break down product management from first principles thinking, drawing from my own experience as being a two-time startup founder, my observations, and the patterns that I've seen across industries, and also just my real life experience. If you've ever wondered how great products actually find their footing, this episode begins to tell that story. And I'm so excited for you to take part in this pre-recorded episode. And yeah, please let me know your thoughts and how you are tackling product market fit today in your business. All right, let's tune in to the pre-recorded episode.
My name is KJ Green, and I'm excited to be your facilitator today for this practical guide to product market fit that I have titled as From Idea to Impact, a practical guide to product market fit. I'm so excited to just be able to share this topic because it's near and dear to my heart. And it's a very relevant area of, I would say, responsibility as we seek to launch businesses, seek to launch features. This could help you in corporate America as well as in entrepreneurship. So I hope you find value in what is being shared today. And really, the topic of conversation and the agenda is on product market fit. I will go over just some practical, practical exercises that you can do to ensure that your product has a fit in today's competitive market. I am KJ Green. I'm a product leader, an entrepreneur, and a lover of all things technology. I am the founder of SoloStar, an AI and cloud consulting company. I also help to advise startups. I work full time in corporate America. I'm a former product manager at Amazon and T-Mobile, and I am a two-time founder and entrepreneur at first at Selly, an AI e-commerce platform, and now, as I mentioned, at SoloStar, a cloud and product consulting company. And why am I here? I am here to help founders like you go from assumption to alignment because I've been there. I built an e-commerce startup before this AI hype that we're experiencing now in 2025. And I learned the hard way of what happens when you have tech that outpaces traction. And now I help teams find product market fit through clarity, discovery, and cultural awareness, not just because you can code or you understand technology. What I bring to the table, as I mentioned, product and cloud and AI experience across emerging technologies. I am also published in AI. I have my own platforms, which I'll get to at the end of this presentation, where you can follow and connect with me. But I'm the founder of SoloStar, as I mentioned, where I consult early stage teams on MVPs, infrastructure, and validation. I also have a dual master's degree from the University of Michigan, go blue, in business administration, information science. And I'm committed to helping you to make sure that you don't overbuild and don't under discover. Finding product market fit. Why does it matter? Why does it really matter? So, this session is more than just building, it's about deeply understanding what to build and why before you even write a single line of code or design anything, why you should understand the landscape of the market. Product market fit, it used to be a buzzword in the early days, but now it's a line between traction and burnout. And it's really the intersection between saying, hey, I want to launch this great idea, or you know what, this actually doesn't make sense. Let's close up shop. And I've been on both sides of the spectrum. And I can tell you on the latter half of the spectrum, it's not the best feeling. So, product market fit should equal real demand, not just cool tech. And it's very tempting, especially in this time, to feel because there's such a business need for AI that you need to pursue a startup in AI. And that's not necessarily the case. And a topic for another day, AI isn't always the fix for everything. You can have a really cool company without it being titled under AI. That's my hot take. Another topic for another day, but wanted to jump into just a personal story. So, just some hard truths about product market fit. So, as I mentioned, I built Selly with a very smart and ambitious co-founding team. Sally began as an AI-powered gifting platform back in 2021, before the AI hype of today. And we wanted to make gifting more thoughtful, personable, automated, especially for busy professionals and businesses through a B2B model. We built impressive technology, smart recipient profiles, seamless gift recommendations, and automated workflows that made gifting easier and more human. Initial feedback was encouraging because we did concept tests, a lot of market research, but the product market fit didn't land as we had expected. We realized that people loved the tech, they loved the idea, but they weren't urgently needing a product like this. And also, we started in 2021 and ChatGPT had launched in 2022. So really, you do the math. So we hit pause and we continue to do work on customer discovery, market research, and testing new value props that helped us to understand where the real pain points were and how might we pivot or reframe the problem we were solving. And we eventually pivoted to a business to business consumer product because it made more sense than going mass market. And it took some time before we did that. And we had already built out a website, a design flow. We had did a lot of work and invested a lot of time before fully proving out product market fit. So I don't want that to be you. I don't want that to be you. So we will start by what is product market fit? So first and foremost, identifying a clear pain point. You should be solving for a specific, urgent, and reoccurring problem, not something that's nice to have. And this is where I say before, AI is great. AI is the future, but you have to make sure that that AI matches a true user problem. Also, having the right target audience. You have to know exactly who you're solving for, their habits, frustrations, and what this customer group has tried before. And we'll dive in to ways that you can find that out. User traction and retention. Are users coming back? Are they telling others? Are they talking about you in the group chats? This is where fit shows up in behavior because essentially a lot of the work that we're doing in businesses is to address pain points and curve behavior. That's all what marketing is. Also, effective and valuable. Is this an effective and valuable product? And I'm gonna be honest with you, there's a lot of products out there that don't really solve any real problems. They're just really cool technology. And that's fine. If you want to build cool technology, kudos to you. But I know for us serious folks who want to actually build something meaningful and have purpose behind of it, we want to build a product that actually works to relieve the customer pain point in a way that users recognize as helpful. So, what are the experts saying about product market fit? So, I always turn to Mark Andreessen because his definition on product market fit means being in a good market with a product that can satisfy that market. Simple. Brian Before, I hope I'm pronouncing this correctly, his last name, talks more about behavior. Product market fit is not a moment, it's a set of behaviors. And he's right. Product market fit isn't just a flashbang of technology, it is a set of behaviors. Who is talking about you? Who is using your product? Who is traveling distances to use your product? And a quick example here is I posted this on my LinkedIn a few weeks ago, but I live in New York City. I live specifically in the Hoboken, New Jersey area in the New York City metro. And I travel about an hour to Harlem, New York, which for my folks who don't live in New York City, Harlem is a neighborhood in Upper Manhattan. Very nice neighborhood, very culturally aligned neighborhood. Look up Harlem, New York on Google if you are familiar with this area of New York City. But I travel an hour to get my hair cut at my barber in Harlem, New York. And that's really because he is awesome at what he does. And his work and his cultural insight, his perspective, his market demand just hits on all of these things that these experts are saying. And he helps to curve a set of behaviors in me because I could easily go to someone who's nearby in the Hoboken or Jersey City area within a 20-minute drive. But I'm taking two trains to travel to him. And when you have that it factor, when you have that lock on a customer, that's when you've really understood what true product market fit is. Anyway, I just wanted to mention that. But cultural insight. So Everett Taylor, who's a Black founder and a well-renowned entrepreneur, says that we don't just need more Black founders, we need more products that speak to who we are and how we move. Exactly. We don't need just generic products. We need products that fit the mold of what people are looking for. Perspective. Hamilton, another Black founder, woman in tech, says that build something that people can't live without and make sure your people are included in who you're building for. And that's where value times demand times use equals product market fit. So product market fit starts with the problem. We need to fall in love with the problem, not the solution. Most failed products solve a low priority problem. And you know why? Because people fall in love with the solution, the cool AI, the cool tech, before they really realize that this actually doesn't solve a problem for people. It's cool tech, but it doesn't actually meet a need that customers need. Also, customers don't buy features, they buy relief. I'm buying relief when I go to my barber in Harlem because I know that I can get an awesome haircut. My part, my fade, everything will look intact. I can go to somewhere that's closer and get an okay, a decent haircut, right? But I may still be upset and have to rock this haircut for the next 2 weeks that I'm not satisfied with. Let's be honest. So me traveling all the way to Harlem helps to buy my relief. I am relieved anytime I get out of that chair and I look like $1 million because know that my barber took his time. He took his time. So that's the thing. When you're building a product, you have to realize that you are competing very heavily for someone's attention, but you're also competing for their relief. And we have to build based off of behavior, not hype. AI is hype, but like what behavior can you help to curve or solve with the AI or the technical product that you're trying to build? Back in the 2010s, when the digital age really took off and the internet became more mature, we could build apps and products for pretty much anything. Everything at that point in time had Wi-Fi attached to it. There was an app for everything in the 2010s. And that was a great time, honestly, because we could have really saw and see just how technology was exploding, but that's not the case in 2025. Like you really have to perfect your craft and do it well in 2025. And that leads me to my first point, customer discovery 101. This is where you start. This is the groundwork that has to be laid in order to really understand the customer that you're solving for and to begin to carve out a lane for your product within the product market fit realms. Customer discovery is a structured way to learn from real people about their problems, behaviors, and priorities before you build anything. We want to, I want to just emphasize, we want to do the groundwork before we build anything. And the goal is to understand the customer pain point, context, urgency, and what people are already doing to solve the issue. And the ask here is, when is the last time this was a problem? That's the real question you have to ask yourself. You know, if you're building, I'm going to continue to just use the example of Selly, but if you're building AI gift engine, when was the last time people have complained about finding gifts? When was the last time people have said, like, you know what? Amazon isn't doing it for me. I get overwhelmed by the searches. I just need a platform to spit out a gift recommendation. When was the last time people have really sat down and said that? That's what we really need to like evaluate, truly. And you really have to avoid having your idea validated and practice listening. Like people will hype you up, but like you have to get to the root and to the truth people and customers that will tell you the truth about their problem and whether or not your idea will solve it. So, some ways that you can conduct customer discovery for free really is first scheduling interviews, 20 to 30-minute interviews with 3 to 5 users to ask about their real life experience within this problem space. I like this because this is qualitative interviews. This is really the meat and potatoes, honestly, of how you will really understand people's behaviors based off of body language and what they say. Second, mass surveys. You can use this before or after interviews to validate trends at scale. And I like the two because surveys can go either before or after, and you can really, I guess, select individuals who want to interview from your survey. You can do a mass survey about 100 people and get about 10 to 20 for interviews. And you can use this by asking focused questions to a wider audience using Google Forms or some other survey platforms. Also, LinkedIn DMs. I put this there. This could be helpful. Just be careful with this because sometimes people aren't always as receptive. And, you know, people value their time, they don't want to be sold to through LinkedIn, fine. But this could be used sparingly where you can send a short targeted outreach with 3 to 5 questions to validate a problem. Keep it casual, don't make it salesy. Review mining. So pull real user pain points from public reviews. So if you're going to a new barbershop, a new restaurant, what do? You look at reviews, right? And this is a good way for you to solve um for you to really understand the problem space that you're entering. Look at what people are saying on these platforms, on Yelp, on Google reviews, and that will help you to really shape just a perspective and themes that arise on based off of what people are actually saying. So customer discovery in action. So define your target person, be specific and identify the customer that you're hoping to learn from. Conduct one-on-one interviews, use open-ended questions, and again, do not pitch. Do not pitch any solutions. Just actively listen. Capture behavior and pain points. Focus on actions, workarounds, frustrations, and look for patterns. What are people saying holistically? Group insights by problem, frequency, and urgency. Okay, so a part of this curriculum, I will provide a customer discovery template that you can use to get started. And this is something that will be helpful for you as you begin this process. Obviously, feel free to make tweaks. I do so as a enlist myself as an expert in this space because I've done it so many times through my work in product management and corporate America, as well as being a startup founder and now a business owner, but I'm not perfect. So obviously, you can take just this with a grain of salt and tweak it to what best works for you. And just a quick activity if you wanted to do this just in a small group setting, just choose one person to play the interviewer and the other as a customer. If it's a group of three, rotate roles after 5 minutes. Use questions like, tell me about a time when you struggled with X. How did you try to solve it? What was frustrating or time consuming about that particular problem? Take notes. Take notes. Identify the clear pain point, the workaround, the emotional traction or quote, and repeat the same process with the person as the interviewer. So, ways that you can synthesize insights, you can group the insights, and I'll provide just a handout that I got during my grad school days. I'm being very generous with these resources because I want people to just have just good insights on how they can realize true product market fit. But these are some ways that I do. So I identified a particular theme that's listed in green. And then I just put like a few like insights that came out of that theme. And then I would list the quotes that came directly from what customers said based off of that theme. And I would do this in Miro because I feel like Miro is one of those platforms where you can just be super creative and just like list everything out and create like this structure that I have here based off of the insights that you've gotten from the customers that you've interviewed. And I think some questions that you want to ask yourself is what problems repeat? What workarounds feel painful? What are people actually saying? Is AI even a solve for this? Those are some questions you can ask. So when you're done with customer discovery, I think one of the most important things here is to understand market research from a holistic level and understanding just the total available market at the bottom. So, what is the total available market? If customers with what are customers in this space willing to pay for this solution? What are their willingness to pay? How is the market size? How big is the market? Also, the SAM, the service addressable market is the customers you could realistically serve based off of the region or industry, and the SOM, the service adjustable obtainable market. What slice of customers in this market can you actually capture in the next 12 to 18 months? So this is an example that I'm currently using now for my current business for the cloud market size. So the total available cloud market is about 31 billion. So this represents global consulting services across all industries. Also, the service addressable market, and this is US based service providers and startups using AWS, Azure, and Google Cloud. And also the service addressable market, which is what solo or unique firms can realistically be captured in 12 to 18 months if done right. So really you will kind of be playing within the service available market as an entrepreneur and startup founder. This is what you can realistically hope for once you launch your startup or business. Also, this is another customer discovery tactic. Once we jump out of just understanding the market sizing and conducting customer discovery interviews and surveys, we need to go on the internet. And I mentioned this before, but netnography is a research method that studies online communities to understand the beliefs, behaviors, cultural values, and digital anthropology. So reviewing reviews on Yelp, and all these other platforms, that's what netnography is at the core. So where do we also observe culture after we've gone through the reviews on Google, on Yelp? Let's take a step and go on TikTok because TikTok help us to see what's trending, challenges, sentiment, Instagram really helps to give you a pulse on what the influencers are saying and just the aesthetic shifts. We know what Reddit is. It's unfiltered opinions and just niche communities talking about their problems and experiences. Twitter, formerly known as X, is really for real-time reactions. A lot of customers, if you're paying attention, go on Twitter to complain. They complain, they tag the company, they complain on Twitter, excuse me, on X. So this is a great way to just capture customer discovery in a very, very realistic pattern because I think this is more of an unbiased filter to some degree. And you can also scroll through the comments and see what people are saying in the comment section as well. And absorbing culture isn't about watching really from the bench. It's about identifying patterns. And, folks use this alongside other tools like Google Trends, TikTok Creative Center, subreddits. Again, scrolling through the comments and seeing what people are actually saying. And why does culture matter? That's the real question. Because culture helps us shape perception. People filter products through the lens of identity, values, and belonging. Culture drives trends. What people talk about, share, or trust is really embedded by their cultural context. Like what people are saying in the group chats, the memes, the rituals, the language is really driven by trends. And trends influence adoption. So users adopt tools that feel familiar, relevant, culturally resonant. It has to have that it factor. Like when Facebook and Amazon and all these other companies were adopted in the early 2000s, they met a need. Facebook met the connectivity need. We had a need to be connected with people from high school and different parts of our lives that it was difficult to be connected with. And, we also wanted to be a little nosy and see what people were doing in their lives. But social media allowed us to have that window of opportunity. Cultural fit fuels retention. People don't just stick to useful products, they stick with them. Products understand them. So, this is what I was saying earlier on with my barber, understands what I need. And that's why I stick with him. Culture isn't a side note, it's a playbook. Professor Marcus Collins is the author of For the Culture. I would highly recommend everyone to read this book because this book really talks about how culture is shaping the meaning, how culture is a system of meaning that shapes how we see the world and how we act upon it. And that influences buying what we buy. Culture influences what we buy. So, just synthesizing insights, these are just some frameworks and tools that you can use. So, once you've done the customer discovery interviews, once you have done your market sizing, and once you've kind of took a peek of what people are saying on TikTok and other cultural platforms, these are some frameworks that can be used to map out which problems are urgent and coming, or just to understand the job of your product is being hired to do. So, the pain versus frequency metric is a classic 2x2 metric. On one axis, you have the pain and how deeply the problem affects the user. On the other, you have the frequency and how often the problem shows up in their life. And when you map the problems users express, you'll see how often they have the high pain versus frequency. And you can look up this framework on Google. I just wanted to briefly highlight it. Also, the Jobs to Be Done framework, which is one of my favorites by the late Clayton Christensen from Harvard Business School. This helps you to understand why users really hire your product, not just for features, but also for the outcomes in their lives. And also, what job is your product being hired to do in this person's life? So, for example, people didn't use Selly just to send gifts. They were hiring it to reduce stress with finding the gift, avoiding guilt from forgetting to buy that gift for your loved one, appearing thoughtful without taking extra time out of your day, impressing clients or loved ones professionally. And when you understand these jobs that your product is solving, you stop building features and start building solutions with emotional clarity and what people actually want and how they work together. So you use the pain versus frequency metrics to prioritize what matters most, then use the jobs to be done to understand why it matters and how to design around it. These frameworks together help you move from how we build something cool to how we're solving a problem that users truly care about. So, after you've done all of that work, you kind of want to start to get into the experimentation phase. And this is where we start to build an MVP. And an MVP is the smallest version of your product that proves it solves a real problem. Your MVP should test, does this problem solve pain in a way that users care about? And an MVP can be in any format. It can be a landing page to describe your offer, collect emails or signups. It can be a no code tool that uses to build a web flow, a guide, a bubble, or Airtable. It can be a concierge service. It can be anything that's relevant to your problem, but your MVP is actually your best friend because the goal here is to build a perfect version of your product. Is not, excuse me, not to build a perfect version of your product, but the goal is to test whether you're solving a problem in a way that users actually care about. So let's break it down really quick. So what is an MVP? Because spending months on features that no one wants are expensive or painful. Instead, we start small and test early. So does this solve a pain? Do people care about it enough to engage or pay for it? That's really what an MVP is. It's a small version of your product that you can test over time and add features based off of usability testing and experimentation. And this is where I say, like, don't guess, just run experiments. Like, get in front of your users quickly and early so that you're not guessing what people want, but you're actually in the driver's seat and solving what they actually need. All right. Well, we made it through. Thank you for listening to the pre recorded episode of part one of what is product market fit. And I want to leave us with a few questions today. So, first one, and this is just off the top of my head that just came to me, but how will you try to establish product market fit in your business? Like, what steps will you take before you build and you start to craft out a product roadmap for your business or product? What steps will you take to establish product market fit? Second question is, what is your why? What is your why for what you're building? And I ask this question because when, as the old saying goes, when the going gets tough, when the road becomes rough, we know when you're building something new from scratch, if you don't have a footing in your personal why, it can be very, very difficult to commit to the long-term progress of this endeavor. So I just wanted to leave us with that. But in part two, we'll explore what happens after early signals emerge and how product leaders should recognize, strengthen, and scale product market fit over time. And I'll also leave you with just some tangible tools to use as ways to begin to establish product market fit. And this is really just the beginning of this series. And I hope that you found benefit thus far. And please let me know if there's something that I missed or any other concepts that you think could really fold out this concept of product market fit. Thank you so much for listening to this episode. And I will see you in part two. Bye now. Thank you for listening to the Product Leaders Edge podcast. If this episode gave you a new way to think about product leadership, share it with someone else who's building in the tech space today. You can follow my work on LinkedIn through my weekly series, Tech Tuesdays with KJ, and subscribe to the newsletter on Substack, which is Solostar by KJG.substack.com. And I'll link all of that into the show notes for you all. But let's continue to build at the intersection of product, cloud, and AI. Until next time, keep building.